going on? It is Cop Pizzle. Quite the week we just experienced through free agency. Giants got several new players on the team. You look at a lot of these signings, and it brings a thought that I have. I'll get to in the second half of this video, but a lot of action this week, a lot of noise, and obviously we're waiting on some potential quarterback news. That's really going to be a big point for a lot of Giant fans and obviously content creators alike. First and foremost, how about my boy Darius Slayton getting re-signed? I mean, I know there's a couple content creators out there that supports Darius Slayton. I don't know if there's anybody out there that has supported him as strong as I have, from Twitter to YouTube. I have loved Darius Slayton since the moment we drafted him out of Auburn. There was a lot of Giant fans, content creators alike, that overreacted to Darius Slayton's drops. I understand that there were some key moments that Darius Slayton, questionably, you could argue, could have caught some balls, and these microwave geeks, just want to label him as a dropper. Someone who has a lot of drops, and the reality is that was just an absolute overreaction. Darius Slayton, to me, watching 35 plus years of New York Giants football, Darius Slayton is a quintessential New York Giants player. He would have fit in any era that the Giants have ever been in. The fact that a few years ago there was a lot of content creators that was telling you he was going to be cut, he was out of here, he had no chance, and he didn't quit. I stayed the course with him, and even when he took a pay cut, I just thought, well, duh. I mean, this is just who he is, and for him to earn this contract, to me, this is fun for me. This is the part that's fun for me as a Giants fan, to watch a guy that we drafted that has shown that he wants to be here. We've had players come and go on this team that didn't want to be on the Giants, and for this guy to show that he wanted to be here. I want to root for guys like that. When they do something big in a game, that's what's awesome about the story of your fanhood. When you see a guy that, man, this guy took a pay cut. He figured out what he needed to do. He got the contract, and now he's out here being successful, and he's a homegrown player at that. It's just as good as it gets to me as a fan. It's like, why would you get so hyped rooting for a team? It's because of stories like that is what makes it fun. So I just love that Darius Slayton's back. I'm glad that I get to keep talking about him, in post-game videos and whatnot. So that's going to be a lot of fun for me. So, just congratulations, Darius Slayton. But, Joe Schoen and company have really attacked free agency, right? They've acquired a lot of talent. I think Golston is one that is super sneaky, that doesn't really get talked about a lot. I know Holland is probably the big signing for the Giants. He's definitely going to be better than Pinnock and gives us that safety help that the Giants desperately need. I mean, look, when you look at the acquisitions that they have made in the secondary alone, I think that this is going to be a much better defense. The defense last year, with their new defensive coordinator, came under a lot of scrutiny. They just didn't have – there were some games that was really rough. And so we know the secondary was probably a weakness of the team. And what Joe Schoen has attacked, which I'm going to get to him in just a minute, but he's really attacked that secondary to try to strengthen that core so that it's a strength for this team. And so really – I like what the Giants have done on the defensive side of the ball, but when you look at the totality of the signings so far from free agency, they've really went after that defensive side of the ball. I mean, they've really addressed that. I know they've made some special teams, and they've gained, to me, a lot more depth, which is something the Giants have just tremendously lacked over the years, and one of their weaknesses, I feel like, has been depth. So I definitely think they've strengthened some depth. They have addressed, a little bit on the offensive side of the ball, but the totality is on that defensive side, and if you want to call it special teams as well. So I don't mind that by any means, but I know that there's a lot of us waiting on what are you going to do at quarterback, which has caused a lot of stir amongst Giant fans, because you see these signings and you're like, well, who's going to throw the ball? And so I understand that concern. I understand where Giant fans are coming from. Who's going to be the quarterback? Who's going to be that guy at that position that's going to lead this team? It's really interesting. Now, let me just say this, why I'm on the quarterback thing. Daniel Jones went and got him a contract with the Indianapolis Colts. So there's a lot of you out there, and I'm not going to make this about Daniel Jones, but there's a lot of you out there that said this man wouldn't have anybody wanting him, and why do the Giants have him? Well, now that he has been released by the Giants, he's had 2 NFL franchises acquire him since leaving this team, with the Minnesota Vikings and now the Indianapolis Colts. It'll be interesting to see, what he does against AR5 there in Indianapolis. So, that was my biggest fear, that he would go somewhere and be successful, and then we would lose out. Look, let's talk about reality about the Giants for a moment. This is reality. The last 5 years, a player that was a first-round draft pick for the Giants has won the Super Bowl. That's reality. Beckham, Kadarius Toney, Saquon Barkley, JPP. These are guys that have won the last 5 years in the Super Bowl, have been won with a New York Giants first-round draft pick on their team. I mean, what are we doing as an organization? So a lot of you have said, well, Daniel Jones is a nobody. Well, guess what? There's a lot of players that have left this team, have left this organization, and have went on and been successful. Most notably, and I understand Kadarius Toney is whatever, but they went on and been successful. Okay, Saquon Barkley was a guy that, to me, wasn't the best player in the league with the Giants. To me, he was starting to lose some of his mustard, if you will, lose some of his fastball. And all of a sudden now, he went and is the best player on the Philadelphia Eagles. So, nevertheless, the one thing that I'm really concerned about is Joe Schoen making these moves in desperation because he wants to try to maintain his job, right? And I'm a little concerned. The fan base right now, it feels like to me that this fan base has got both Brian Dable, and I'm guilty of this too, Brian Dable and Joe Schoen in the corner, and we are demanding you to make something happen this year, right? And when you make all these moves and all these signings and you get ready to make a huge decision like quarterback, right? And if you don't get this right, whether it's a free agent signing or a draft pick, if you don't get this right, we're going to have a whole new regime of coach and GM. And are they going to like the guy that they pick? I mean, this is for the New York Giants right now. This is such a scary time as a fan, because if they fuck it up, then the new regime may say we got to readdress all of this. So whatever the Giants do, whatever Joe Schoen does, whatever Brian Dable does, every move they make right now is so critical and so vital, especially at the quarterback position, because if they screw this up right now, it could set us back terribly. So I'm very concerned right now. I know a lot of people are going nuts about every move the Giants make, but that quarterback position is one that I've really got my eye on, and I have my thoughts and I have my opinions, and I'm waiting more to get more info and more detail and see what – I mean, look, I want Rodgers. And I want to go through a couple years with him, but it's obvious to me that he wants to be a Minnesota Viking, and he'll settle for Steelers, and we're third in line. That's what's obvious to me. Russell Wilson, I could live with temporarily. I have my opinions about the draft quarterbacks, but you do too, don't you? So what does my opinion matter at this point? So I'm really nervous right now. I'm really interested to see what the Giants keep doing. And when it happens, you'll see Pizzle.